In this video, I'm going to show you how to remove this panel down here that runs all the way along to the front wheel. Why would you want to do this? Well, I was actually poking around looking for access to underneath here, which there isn't, but as it turns out, as you can see, the two drain plugs for the Boxster, clearly the Cayman's not going to have these, but these are the access holes from the convertible compartment above. The one at the bottom here is the one from the bucket that sits underneath the motor mechanism. This one here comes from underneath this seal there, and they've got a rubber tube that goes to here, but they've both got this piece of rubber on the end of them, which is like a one-way valve to actually hold all the gunk on the inside so only water drips out. Why it's like that, don't really know, instead of just having that completely open, but the only way to clean these out is to obviously pull this out, and then you can just pull those out like that, and then you can blow some air in here. It's easy enough just to lift up the little piece of rubber like that and clear everything out, and then they just rotate back in again like that. The different sizes, the different ones, the one at the top here is actually a lot bigger, but this car is always garage, never out in the weather. It's a fair weather car. Basically if it's raining I drive something else, and it surprised me how much crap there was inside here. So what I don't want to have happen is these get clogged whenever, and then things start to fill up inside the convertible compartment or underneath this heel here. So I plan to, every couple of years, probably take this off, it's not that hard, and clear all this out. So to remove this piece here, the first thing you're going to do is there's a bunch of fasteners all the way around it, and we'll go through those individually, and then once they're all out, then the whole piece is actually just clipped into these pieces along here. So there's a bunch of little clips here, and this will basically just pull straight off those. They're in fairly tight, but if you just take your time, it'll actually pull out quite happily. I've put some grease back on those, so when I pull it off in the future, it's going to be a little bit easy, but most of it is relatively simple. It can be done without the car up on jacks or anything like that, even though you have to remove the guard at the wheel liner at the front and the rear. They can quite happily be done with the car not jacked up like this, and getting access underneath here to the clips that come in here is actually pretty simple. So I'll have a look at each of those. The wheel liner at the rear of the car, the book says you don't actually have to take this out, but it's going to be a little bit easier, especially for the installation if you have this out. Connection points, there are 10mm nuts that go on those two spots there, and there, that's one of the studs there for that. And then there's going to be there are T25 Torx screw, which is where a lot of them are around the car, that's going to go in there. And then you've got, that actually allows, that's connected to the chassis on the inside, but then what you have is, as you can see, that there's that screw point there and that one there, and then this one here, and then that will actually sit like that. So there'll be, and this is obviously on the outside of the car, there'll be one there, and then on the underside in there, which is underneath the car there, and then you can just remove that whole thing out. To remove the wheel arch trim at the front, you can quite happily do this with the wheels on the ground. I would have the wheel straight ahead. I've turned it to the right at the moment to get access to other stuff to actually remove the trim piece. But this bit here, have the wheel straight. Things you want to remove, there are two of those T25 Torx at the top. There's one at the back there. There are two M6 plastic nuts that go on that, and then on the underside here, which is going to be underneath the car, there are three of those Torx, T25 Torx, and once that happens you can actually just push it in forward. That's what these slots are for, so those studs allow that to be released, and then you can just wiggle that out. That's pretty simple. And then to get access to the connection points up here, to get access to the connection points that actually hold it on at the front, that point there is one of those that was connected to the wheel arch trim, so that will actually be already disconnected. There is another one of those T25 Torx screws in there, and that is down in there. That is close to impossible to get at if you don't have the wheel turned in the direction of the panel that you're removing. So open that up, have the door open, you have lots of light coming through here, and that's just going to be in that bottom one there. There's also just a rubber knob on that one next to it, which is just going to be slotted up in there, which just sort of holds it in place whilst you're doing other work. At the bottom here, you've got this expansion rivet here, which is going to be pressed up in there like that and into that hole there. The problem is that this doesn't have a head on it, and it's actually in quite tightly. The only way I could actually get access and sort of push this out was to actually push in the knob from the top. And what I did was I got a 2mm drill bit, put it in some vice grips, so sort of the bottom of the drill bit was sort of sticking about that far out, and then just forced it down enough so that could actually be pulled out the bottom. But that's actually in there relatively tightly, but that worked out reasonably well. The connection points along the top here, which are these holes there, they just have these press-in sort of plastic studs, if you like. So they'll be pushed in there, with that obviously over the top of that. And the best way I've found to actually get those out is I just got a small screwdriver to lift that up, and then I just got a rivet removal tool and just gently pull those out, and they popped out relatively simple. However, before you do that, this is all covered by this piece here, which is the bit that sort of sits there. The way this comes off is you've got these 4 sort of plastic pieces that sit in there, and they slide off this. So this actually sits like that and pulls out this way. And the way to get access to the inside there, because you're limited with sort of space in there to get your fingers in, is just gently pull this up. Now you can disconnect that if you like, but you don't really need to. There's just a bunch of clips here that go into the sill, and then I can just pull up that seal, get that out of the way, and then this piece here is now going to be in a position where I can actually sort of get my fingers in there and then just pull that out, and that just popped out quite easily like that. Obviously installation, you're just going to put that down, and then make sure you find that if they've come off the little rubber pads that go over those couple of clips, align everything, and then you can just gently push everything down. On the underside here, under the sill, there are these big fittings. They're just, so you just rotate those like that, and they just pop straight out. There's a whole bunch of those all the way along the bottom. If you just have a short flathead screwdriver, you just rotate those 90 degrees, and then they just pull straight out. And so once you've removed all of the connection points along the top, the front here, underneath, and at the back, then you can pull this off. I found the best way to do it, I actually had to use a plastic prying tool to sort of get in here and then just gradually move this out. When you do it, make sure you have the door fully open, because what's going to happen is it's all jammed in up the front here, and when this pops out, you want to keep that connected up the front here, and then we're going to slide that rearwards. And it might be a little bit hard to see, but at the front up in here, there is this piece of Velcro which actually connects to a piece on the underside of this, which you can see there. And so that's designed to sort of hold things in place so it doesn't sort of want to fall out in this direction. You actually want to slide it out, otherwise this bit here will get jammed up against the door, the corner of the door down the bottom. Having done this now on the left hand side, a couple of things. Obviously I had to remove the wheel, etc., so I could get the washer bottle out, and whilst I just wanted to prove to myself on the other side that I could do it with the wheel on, I didn't have to jack it up. On this side you obviously need to, but it makes it much simpler, especially to get access to the screw down in there without, so you can actually stick your head down there, etc. Also, something that I found much easier actually getting this off when I was actually pulling this off was I just started at the back this time, and that just pulled out relatively simply. And then once you sort of get to there, and this is all unclipped, then if you just, because it takes a little bit more force to get that out, then you can sort of pry that out. You can actually sort of push there, put your hand in behind the intake and pull it off, and that actually popped off much simpler than on the other side. This piece here, which sits on the underside of that, as you can see, that actually clips into the actual trim piece, so that doesn't need to come out. I've pulled that out, but that actually does not need to come out to actually remove the trim piece. To remove this piece here, which sits there like that, there are two clips at the front here, as well as two 6mm screws that are at the rear. So you're going to remove those two screws. It's going to sit there like that. There's a couple of little spots here where they will sit underneath, and then you can just wiggle that clear, and that whole thing will just come out. To put it back in, just look through here, make sure those little clips are aligned correctly, and then once they're in there, the two 6mm nuts can go on the back there. So let's have a look at what's in these on this side. I'm not sure if you can see much of that. There's not a whole bunch, but there's certainly plenty of, you know, some junk in there that needs to come out. Yeah, you maybe like to wash that out with water if you wanted to, but that's got most of the crap out of there. This one here. Okay, so you can see that's just got full of leaf matter and stuff. That after a while is going to clog up everything. And like I said before, this car is never out in the weather, never under trees or anything like that, and that's what has built up over the years. And I've actually tried to get in there from the top, blow compressed air out, etc., to try and get rid of as much as I possibly can, and that's still what's remaining. So I reckon over time that would actually clog stuff up.